As has been said over these last couple of days, we've been looking at what we could call the power of three. Now, we can ask ourselves, why is it called power? And if we look at it as has been said, we know that when our body and our mind and our spirit are in alignment, we're in a state of harmony. And we also have experienced that when the duality, the level of duality, and the level that's often called intuition, and that level of interrelatedness or oneness are merged together, we're in what is called a state of Satchitananda, or existence, knowledge, and bliss. But where does the power come in? Now, we know that in a superstitious sense, when that third mishap happens to us, we kind of relax and say, oh well, oh now it's done, thank goodness for that, that three's finished. So we can kind of get a glimmer that there's something about this three. You know, many years ago in Hawaii, one of those many spiritual forums that were attended, there was a demonstration by a spiritual master who was also an Aikido master. And up on the stage, he invited two burly Hawaiians to come up on the stage with him. But he was not a man of very tall stature, not even much taller than myself. But when he invited these two big Hawaiians up, they stood beside him. And this Aikido master, he looked around at all the audience, even embracing the two big burly Hawaiians, and then he visibly aligned himself. And then he invited these two Hawaiians to try to lift him up off the stage, and they could not. No matter what strength they used, they could not lift this little man from the stage. Now that's not really demonstrating three, because one can't tell what else he did there, whether his duality and the rest of it was all merged, but he certainly aligned himself, that was certain. But there's a story that adds to our pot, and see what it does to bring about an awareness for us of what we might conceive of as being the power of three. It's a story about a kingdom where there was a beautiful princess who had come of marriageable age. Now, as it happened, there were three handsome princes. They were all brothers, in fact, who came to seek her hand in marriage. And she knew that she would have to make a decision as to which one she would choose to be her husband. So, pondering on this, she decided that she would give them a test. She asked them, please, to go and find the greatest treasure that they could offer her, and then she would choose which one of them would be her husband. So the brothers got together and they decided that they would go to the far reaches of the world to find their gift, and that they would meet before they came, knowing that the princess would choose one of them to be her husband. So the first brother went off to Asia, and he wandered the streets of the eastern cities, just looking and looking and looking for what it could be, when he came across a certain shop that was selling carpets. And when he went in and he was looking around, the carpet seller came up to him and said, you know, I have a magic carpet. It's rather priceless, but I can see that you might have its cost." So the prince was very piqued in his interest about this, and the seller of the carpet said, "This is a magic carpet that can take you wherever it is you want to go." So somehow the prince absolutely trusted this carpet seller, and he bargained with him and finally came to a price, and the carpet became his. So he thought this was a very worthy gift for the princess. Well, the second prince went to the Middle East, and there he was wandering the streets of the bazaars when he came across a shop that was selling all kinds of trinkets and strange things. And when he went into the shop, again the shopkeeper kind of made a connection with him and kind of took him aside and said, "You know, I've got something very special that you might be interested in." And he took out a mirror, and he said, "This is a magic mirror, because when you look in this and wish to see something, you will see what it is that you're wishing to see." So again, the prince bargained with the seller and was able to obtain this mirror at great price. Well, the third brother was wandering about in the forests and in the lands, in the rural areas of certain cities, when he met a farmer, an orchardist, you might say. And that orchardist said, "I have a special tree in my orchard. It is said to be seeded from the tree that was in the Garden of Eden. And on that tree is a fruit that is said to heal any ailment. May I show it to you?" And so the orchardist led the prince to this tree, a magnificent tree. And on that tree there was one apple. And the orchardist said, "You know, this apple is always ripe and red." So again the prince asked the orchardist its price, and the orchardist weighed up. If he gained wealth, he would look after his family for many, many years or even generations. So he decided to allow the prince to take this fruit, to take this apple. And the orchardist warned him, "But remember, when the apple is eaten, it has lost its power. It will only heal once." And so the prince took the apple from the orchardist. And it was time for all the three brothers to meet and compare their gifts. So when they came together and demonstrated or revealed what they'd discovered, they said, "Let's look in the magic mirror and see how the princess is faring." And so when they looked in the mirror, they saw that the princess was laying on a pallet, almost at death's door. So, of course, amongst them, they decided that they would immediately get on the magic carpet and go to where she was. And this indeed took place. When they arrived at the palace and came beside the princess, Without a thought, the prince took the apple from out of his cloak and offered it to the princess. Well, it goes without saying, with one bite from the apple, she was restored to health. Now, it was, of course, the time for the princess to decide which of the 3 princes she would marry. So she went and embraced the first prince and thanked him for his gift. And then she went to the second prince, again embracing him and thanking him for the gift. And then she went to the third prince and said, "This is he who will be my husband, for he who had the magic carpet. This magic carpet can be used again and again and again, as it is with the magic mirror. But this prince offered me the gift that he could have kept for himself, and yet he offered it to me, knowing that only once it could be given." When we take this story in our looking at the power of 3, what is it that arises for you from this story, from our own experience? We know what it is to be in harmony, in alignment. We know what is there when these 3 come together. We call it harmony. We know what it is when the 3 levels of existence merge, when duality and intuition, so-called, and oneness merge. But what is this power of 3? What is it that arises for us from this? And what does this story tell us about this? Perhaps we need to look very carefully at where we've been, knowing that we've been in the world of duality, knowing nothing else, the arena of life as it's called. And we certainly know what it is to rely on intuition, or as the saying goes, come back to our heart and listen to our heart instead of our head. And we know interrelatedness because we've embraced compassion, pity, love. What happens when all 3 come together? What is this power of 3?